According to the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime, human trafficking is an acquisition of people by improper means, such as force, fraud, or deception, with an aim of exploiting them. Smuggling of migrants involves the procurement for a financial or material benefit of illegal entry of a person into a state of which that person is not a national or a resident. Or, to give a simpler definition, human trafficking is a slavery of 21st century. Today, I want to share a story of a woman who attempted to give her young daughter the best life she could ever dream of, but paid for those attempts by being labor trafficked into the United States. It was a bright, sunny spring morning in Chernivtsi, Ukraine. Not an ideal morning for saying goodbye. Nina was putting her last items into a suitcase while her daughter sat next to the window, refusing to look her in the eyes. "Why do you have to leave me?" That was the question that the daughter kept repeating over and over again, leading up to this day, the day when her mother was taken away from her. A month prior to her departure, Nina heard of a woman who helped Ukrainians get a job in the United States. She even paid for their accommodation. Everything that was asked out of the clients is to pay $1,000 for a plane ticket and $1,000 immigration fees. To Nina, it sounded a little bizarre and too good to be true, but she was making $27 a month as a professor in the university, and at night, she was washing the floors at the same university to make some extra cash. Her husband got into an accident. He required a surgery. He couldn't lift his arms. Therefore, his working abilities were limited. Nina carried the weight of family's financial burden all on her own shoulders. So, going to America seemed like the only option that the woman had. She dialed the given to her phone number and waited. On a second ring, she heard a female voice. "Hello, how may I help you?" Nina explained the situation, said where she got the phone number from, and asked if the woman could help her. Cheerfully, the other end responded, "Of course, my dear. Now, everything we need from you is $1,000 of the fees and, of course, $1,000 for a plane ticket. Somebody will meet you at the airport on the day. Oh, and Nina, your luggage shouldn't be heavier than 10 kilos. See you in America." The woman hung up, leaving Nina with more questions than answers. Why did somebody need to meet her at the airport? And why should her bag be this light? Surely she was going to the United States for more than just a week. Nonetheless, Nina swallowed her worries. She complied to all of the requests given to her by the lady on the phone. She borrowed the money from her friends for the plane ticket and for the fees, and bought a small suitcase. So here it was, the day to leave. Without looking back, Nina left the house, believing what she was doing was for the best. If she wouldn't go through with this, her family would live under the line of poverty. As was discussed, she was met at the airport by a man who introduced himself as the driver. "Give me your passport. You're not going to need it." "I'll keep an eye on it," he said. "From now on, you're Czech." The man handed her the passport labeled Czech Republic with her picture in it. Immediately, Nina started to protest and complain and say that it wasn't what she signed up for, and she demanded to be taken back, to which the man replied, "Don't worry about it. This is the way you're going to America. Everybody does it. You can even use it to come back." Immediately, Nina realized that she could be in a big mess. She heard of that type of thing before, when they take away your passport and force you to be a prostitute, but she did not think it was real. And it couldn't be her. She was too old, so immediately she put all of those thoughts out of her head. And America was a very tough country to get into, so getting in illegally made sense, even though that prospect scared her even more than being forced to work as a sex worker. So Nina boarded the plane with a hope that it would take her to a steady income, but she would soon find out that it would not be the case. As soon as she landed in New York, she took a taxi to the Brooklyn address that was given to her weeks before. At the address, she was met by two women who spoke broken Ukrainian and a man who seemed to be mute. He studied Nina from head to toe, nodding his head, what seemed to be in approval. After an hour or so, a woman arrived. She smiled and said sweetly, "I'm so happy you're here, my dear, but you owe us a lot of money, $25,000 to be exact, from the passport to the immigration fees. Now, if you give back our money, you can go back home. If you pay late, there's an interest rate of 32%. Now, if you leave before you paid off, there will be consequences. And I'm sure you don't want to find out what they are, but you do have a pretty little daughter back home. It would be a shame if something would happen to her. I have people in Ukraine watching your family. Oh, and you can't go to the police. You're legally, they'll arrest you for a minimum of 20 years, so it is better if you obey me." Dread filled Nina. So if she wouldn't pay, she risked her daughter being hurt or worse. If she would go to the police, she risked being arrested. Nina wasn't a big mess, though she wasn't forced to be a prostitute. She was forced to work for free. From that day on, Nina worked 3 to 4 jobs a day, leaving her house at 6 a.m. and coming back around midnight. On Sundays, she would call home and tell her daughter that everything was fine, refusing to tell her any other details on how she felt and how her anxieties wouldn't let her sleep at night because she was afraid of missing a payment. A woman she worked with told Nina about the late payer. The lady and the other man took him into the woods and beat him half to death for missing a payment. So she would say to her loved ones and hope that everything's fine and that New York is beautiful and her life is better than anyone could imagine. Nina's life continued to be this way for 3 years until one morning she received unexpected visitors. 2 well-dressed men arrived at her door. "Nina, will you please come with us?" Nina didn't know what to expect. What if these men were the men to take her into the woods and beat her as well? They led her to a black SUV with tinted windows. Once inside, a woman spoke in Russian. "Не переживайте, все хорошо. Please don't worry about it. Everything is fine." As it turns out, FBI have been investigating the lady and the gang. They were the most prominent labor trafficking gang from Ukraine. They got caught on camera threatening one of their victims with a knife. All it took was for that victim to go to the police. During her ride, Nina learned that her traffickers were arrested and she was free now. She also had a choice, whether to go back home or to bring her family to the United States. Nina chose America. She realized if she would go back home, her family would live the same life she lived before she left her United States. America represented a climate of hope. That same day, she called her daughter and told her that they would be reunited in the United States. Within 4 months, she stood at JFK, awaiting the plane that carried her beloved daughter and her husband. Years of torture and anxieties and depression were about to be over. After hours of waiting, a girl showed on the horizon. She was walking with a tall FBI agent, looking around the big building as if it was a museum. The second their eyes met, the daughter dropped her suitcase, dropped her little backpack, and ran until her mother's arms were around her. In that moment, Nina knew she was safe. Her daughter was with her. Nina survived trafficking. The nightmare was behind her, but she still couldn't bring herself up to tell her family and loved ones what she endured while she was alone in New York, until one day, her daughter did it for her. She came home from school, sat her mother down and asked, "Please tell me the truth. What happened to you?" At that moment, mother told her daughter everything, how she was exploited and threatened, and how alone and scared she felt. This was the moment that decided the daughter's life. She hugged her mother and said, "You're not alone anymore." It is hard to imagine that this type of exploitation that is often described as modern-day slavery exists in our day. But Nina's story is not singular. Human trafficking is happening all around us on a daily basis. Normally, when we think of trafficking, we have this mistaken image of a movie taken, and even though it does remember a film on occasion, it is far more complex. As Nina's story showed us, traffickers will go to extreme measures to make sure that their victim gets into the country and starts making money for them. In a way, these people have created a circuit of recruiters, facilitators, and trafficking leaders who pry on the vulnerabilities of the population for a better and safer life. Statistically, trafficking rises in a time of war, natural disaster, or economic crisis. And money-hungry people know how to take advantage of that. Because when everything is concentrating around making profit, you will realize that human rights get lost. So what do we do? How do we prevent this type of thing from happening? How do we stop people from being exploited at the hands of other people? Well, I don't really know. But just because I don't know doesn't mean I'm not going to try. And I invite you to try today with me. So number one in my book is educate yourself. Educate yourself and educate others about human trafficking. Learn what it is, learn what makes trafficking slavery. Because the more we know, the more power we have. Number two, know the signs. Well, we all have seen those posters on the subway that say, if you see something, say something. Well, to know what you're looking at, to say what you're seeing, you have to know what you're looking for. It is important to know the signs of trafficking because that way you can actually save a life. One of the first signs is a person who works excessive hours and makes little money or makes the money in cash or tips or has no money at all. Another sign is a person who seems to have poor mental health. So they would seem fearful and anxious. That is the result of constant psychological pressure and threats that the traffickers impose on the victim. They pressure the person in order to scare them so they would not go to the authorities or would not speak to anybody about their situation. Another great example of sex trafficking is when a person appears to be always accompanied by somebody and lets them speak for them. Also an incredible sign of sex trafficking is when a minor is forced to be a prostitute. Number three, raise awareness. Well, in order to prevent trafficking, we have to make sure that it is known. Talk to your friends. These friends can talk to the other friends. The other friends can talk to the other friends, and so on and so forth. This way, we can make sure that we can create another circuit, a web of awareness. It is also very important to raise awareness in the countries of threat to trafficking, like countries like Ukraine, where annexation of Crimea and a constant unrest on the eastern part of the country have forced so many people to relocate. And just like 14 years ago, the poor economic conditions make it easy for people to exploit other people. It is simple. The more we know about the trafficking, the more we are aware that it is happening, the harder it would be for traffickers to target. Number four, take action. Well, you can lobby to change the laws and policies. You wouldn't believe how many countries actually don't have any laws implemented to prevent their citizens trapped in a situation of slavery. Fundraise. Create small and fun fundraisers for the charities and organizations that work with victims of trafficking. And probably the most important to me is volunteer. There are many local nonprofits that could use a helpful hand, and this way you can meet trafficking victims. You can realize how much of incredible people they are, and you can be that helpful hand, and you can be that person that helps them soothe their shame and their anxiety that often comes with being trapped in trafficking. We need to stop shying away from the topic of slavery. We need to hear, we need to speak, and that way we will be able to prevent and free so many people from their chains. In my years, I have worked with many victims of trafficking. I have heard many of their stories. I have hugged them, and I have reassured them that everything will be fine. But there is one story that I will never forget. There is one story that gets me going, pushes me, and drives me to be better. This is the story of Nina. This story belongs to my incredibly courageous and immensely stubborn mother who, no matter what she's been through, makes me believe in hope every single day. Thank you.